right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar with the Acture team, Acture Solutions team. My name is Dave Scott, and I am on the marketing team here at Acture Solutions. Today, we have an awesome webinar for your school district talking about how to make web browsing safe for your district and all of your students safe online. Today, we've got one of our vendor partners with Barracuda, and they're going to talk a little bit about their solutions and really how to keep the web threats out of the web browsing experiences inside of your school districts. Again, I'm Dave Scott. I work on the marketing team here at Acture Solutions, and just a couple of parking lot items as we get started today. Today's webinar is being recorded and it's also live. So if there's somebody inside of your school district that you want to send this to afterwards, or you want them to see this, you'll be able to see it not only live here today, but you'll be able to share it via YouTube, and it will also be on our website and on our LinkedIn page as well. So this is being recorded. If you've got somebody who wants to see it later on, you can certainly send it to them. We'll also be sending this out via email marketing as well. So your inboxes will be full of some follow-up emails with the recording link from today's webinar. Everybody's email addresses are also included on this today. So if you have any questions about things like how to keep students safe, IT solutions, E-rate, how to get these things funded, anything of that nature, you can reach out to us after the webinar. Our VP of Sales and Marketing, his name is Joe. His contact information will be at the very end of this webinar, and then his information will also be in the email marketing follow-ups as well. And all of the Barracuda team who are presenting today will also be sharing their contact information as well. So if there's anything that comes up again afterwards and you have questions, comments, concerns, you can reach out to us then. All right, so we're going to get started today. And first, what we want to do is just talk a little bit about the pain point of what school districts are struggling with today inside of the New York State region. And then what we'll do is we'll hand it off to the Barracuda team. They'll talk a little bit about their solutions, and they've got a really cool demo that we hope to be able to finish up with at the end of this webinar. Okay, I hope everyone's ready to get started just as I am. So a little bit about Acture Solutions. First of all, we're a managed IT services provider and an IT solutions provider. And our goal is really to power innovation to fuel the future inside of your school district. And so we do that through a number of services. We focus on cybersecurity, outsourced or managed IT solutions, cloud solutions, and IT projects. And we've been doing this for school districts and other verticals and businesses since 1984. In our partnership with Barracuda, we know that it takes a village to keep your school district safe and secure. And we do that through our 7-step process and also in collaboration with vendor partners like Barracuda. So the problems that we're seeing New York school districts struggle with are many. So when it comes to technology, a lot of their district's resources are stretched very thin. They have multiple needs that aren't being met and sometimes aren't met simultaneously, things like physical security as well as online learning environments. Say on today's webinar, which is really about web browsing and web threats. And they've got to continually innovate to stay at the forefront of classroom collaboration and technology trends. And most school districts, like other school districts around the country, struggle to keep up with this level of tech innovation. Funding for IT is increasingly getting harder and harder. New York State school districts aren't alone, but they are struggling with staffing shortages, just like districts all over the country, and they're overwhelmed with the ever-changing technology needs. And students and staff are really the ones bearing the burden of risk by working on technology networks that are slow, outdated, unreliable, and not secure. So in keeping them safe, school districts safe, it's really about that safety and that cybersecurity piece coming first. And so this is an example of a map. And since 2016, as you can see, there have been a lot of cybersecurity and web threat incidences that have happened. So the purple highlights unauthorized ones, where they're basically data breaches that resulted in some sort of disclosure of personal data. It might be school staff data, might be addresses of students, it might be parents, parental information, who knows what it is. The yellow is really talking about ransomware attacks. The blue is talking about phishing attempts, like cyber spoof events, right? The email that you get with a weird subject line and to click on a link that you shouldn't. That's an example of a phishing attack. And then the green and red dots represent denial of service attacks. And those are a lot more complicated and advanced in nature. But the red are really the big ones. That's cybersecurity incidents resulting in a school disruption or some sort of unauthorized disclosure of really sensitive information that shouldn't be out there. So web threats, and which is what we'll talk a little bit more about today with the Barracuda team, are very real, right? And we know that school districts across the New York State and the New York region are struggling with this because the data tells us so. So school districts can overcome a lot of these challenges, and here's how. So we have a team here at Acture Solutions that can help you get plugged in to fund some of these things through E-rate. That won't be the crux of the conversation here with the Barracuda team, but it is part of it from 100,000-foot level. We really want to talk with school districts about what that outsourced technology partnership looks like, right? Such as with us or a partner like Barracuda. And we want to help you understand that augmenting and outsourcing some of these things isn't bad. Outsource is not a swear word like it once was. And then we also want to talk a little bit about, and we know that you can overcome these challenges by understanding how to get the results faster that get you more updated and secure networks inside of your school district. So K through 12 school districts need all the help that they can get to educate, train, and protect America's future workforce, which is our children. And this begins with investing in a solid IT and a solid and secure IT network. And now I'll pass it on to the Barracuda team, and Scott will talk to us a little bit more about the Barracuda solutions that we'll be talking about today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and welcome everybody to this webinar. And just want to walk through how Barracuda is partnering with Acture to specifically help protect in the Microsoft 365 environment. Email continues to still be one of the most prevalent attack vectors across the board. So next slide, please. Let's start off with the poll question, and that being, how do you feel about your current email security posture? Doing well, need some work, or great question?
All right, Scott, we will share the results. We'll try to get to them by the end of our webinar here.
Sure thing. So let's go ahead and pop to the next slide.
Absolutely.
And as I said, email attacks are still one of the most lucrative ways to get into an organization. And the reality is that 90% of data breaches are traced back to phishing attacks. And along with that, we're seeing organizations across the board seeing a 78% of those organizations seeing a lower phishing susceptibility when they're doing some type of end user training. And dollars and cents talk. And the FBI reported this statistic that the cost of business email compromise since 2016 was $43 billion. And that's a lot of money. And it doesn't matter if it's $1,000, $100,000, $1 million, it does cost organizations a lot of money when email attacks do occur. Next slide. And go ahead and press it one more time. And we are seeing the move to Office 365 is continuing to accelerate. This number is probably even higher now, but 79% or more of organizations are in the Office 365 platform. Next click. And the truth is that 98% of those organizations have threats that are currently residing in their users' mailboxes, which means, again, it becomes an attack vector for bad actors. Next slide. It's just a couple of quick snippets on Barracuda. We've been named a leader in the Forrester Wave for enterprise email security. Next slide. And in fact, we even won the SE Labs 2021 award for best email security service, among some other recent awards, and our support as well has won awards for its service to our clients. Next slide. So let's ask this next question. What is the most important thing that you would like to see in an email security solution? Is it ease of use, the ability to stop phishing emails, or even the ability to remediate threats when they get through?
Such a great question, Scott. Again, we'll get to those here at the end of our webinar.
Awesome. So let's pop to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Barracuda, we've identified 13 different email threat types spanning from the far left, where your traditional spam, the Nigerian prince and things like that, all the way over to the right, where you get into the more complex, the more sophisticated social engineering style attacks, where they're designed to target specific individuals or even evade some of the defense layers you may have in place. Next slide. And so Barracuda realized that The email gateway, which was really designed and was where Barracuda got started back in 2003 with traditional spam filtering, was great at protecting against spam malware 0-day. However, it does not do a very good job protecting against those more sophisticated attacks that you see on the right-hand side. And so that's where about 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, we started building out a more robust and API-based defense that's living and breathing in your users' inboxes to protect against those more sophisticated attacks. Go ahead, next slide. Good timing.
Yeah, a little trigger happy.
Yes, go ahead. And so we took what is available from Microsoft, their Graph API, and really that's a fingerprint of how your users are communicating, who they communicate with, even down to the linguistic patterns of their emails and how they're crafting those emails. Next slide. We took that and built our own API. Next slide. Yep. Built the AI and machine learning off of that graph API so that we could understand what is normal user behavior in your environment. And so by default, we would then know what is potentially abnormal user behavior. Next slide. And so this can be done at the gateway with crafting rules and allowing block lists. The problem is that it's a lot of rules, and for any organization of any size, that's a lot of administrative overhead to manage on a day in and day out basis. So using this identity graph, understanding normal and abnormal behavior, we crafted this AI and machine learning solution. Next slide. And so this is some of what our email security looks like from top to bottom. It absolutely starts at the gateway, protecting that inbound and outbound email from spam malware, the more advanced 0-day attacks, having the ability to scan attachments, then taking it to the next level with our inbox defense account takeover, which is our impersonation protection product. Using AI, using machine learning, protecting against those targeted phishing attacks, those domain spoofing attacks, even the conversation hijacks where bad actors insert themselves into conversations, email chains, pretending to be someone that they are not. Then beyond those two layers, which we know, there are things that there is no 100% foolproof solution, and things will eventually and periodically evade those defenses. And that's where our incident response comes in. The ability to go in and use a 5-click process to actively search through your users' mailboxes, find emails that match a search criteria, and then remove them in a matter of seconds. Taking the age-old way of using PowerShell scripts and commands that are not always the easiest to do, and simplifying that, taking processes down to a matter of minutes to resolve. Next slide. Building on that, we realized that not only is there the ability to threat protect and respond, but also protecting the data as well as the training, all the way back to that first slide where I mentioned organizations see a better response to phishing susceptibility. And so we have a product called Cloud to Cloud Backup, which hooks into your Office 365 tenant, backs up your Teams, Exchange Online, SharePoint, and OneDrive. Actually, a product that was co-developed with Microsoft, built from the ground up. Very much an unlimited retention, unlimited storage model, and is actually something that Microsoft themselves recommends in their own service agreement. And certainly the email archiving, that fully immutable copy of all inbound, outbound, and internal email for any type of e-discovery or legal reasons you may need to have that to, again, unlimited storage and retention. And then our security awareness training, everything from being able to test on emails to USB portable devices, text-based and voice-based, very powerful product that you can have trainings up and running with 5 clicks and a quick launch, all the way to building out complex campaigns that are running throughout the year. And then next slide. A couple of new things that were added in towards the end of last year and are being built out even more is our data inspector. As organizations continue to move into that Office 365 environment and they're utilizing tools such as OneDrive and SharePoint, sometimes it's hard to know what data is being saved in OneDrive or SharePoint that maybe contains PII or violates some form of compliance. And so Data Inspector was designed to audit and report on those items that are hitting on built-in classifiers that we have in the product, as well as any classifiers that you as an organization would set up to help protect not only from PII being put into those two areas and or shared, but also has the ability to look at files that may be saved and have some type of malicious code or macros enabled that could be used to launch an attack. And then last but not least, we rolled in a part of our web filtering product called DNS filtering, where you're able to enforce policies at the DNS level, thereby protecting students and staff from getting out and onto websites that they shouldn't be on or could be potentially malicious. And that is part of our email security suite as we've been moving through this year. So next slide. And one key thing I always like to mention is we're not here trying to replace Office 365. Office 365 does a great job at what it does: sending, receiving email, allowing you the ability to access data from wherever you have an internet connection or a cell connection nowadays. But we are really here to enhance that Office 365 experience, the ability to provide layers of protection that Microsoft just doesn't do a great job at. They're not a security company. And so we come in to complement Office 365, not to displace them in any way, shape, or form. Next slide. And now the fun stuff, just some examples that we've seen in our product, a free proof of concept tool that we have called an email threat scanner. It will actually go in and do a 12-month look back through your Office 365 environment. It will do that bootstrapping process where it's learns your users' behaviors and then reports back on potential threats that are still sitting in your users' inboxes. And these are some of the examples that we've seen from that email threat scanner, where you've got this plain text email. There is no payload, there is no attachments, there's no suspicious URLs. It's just text. It's impersonating a particular person within the organization, but the threat scanner, and by default, this is a proof of concept for our impersonation protection. It says, hold up, we have not seen James email from this email address. So this is unusual that it's from this email address, and based on the linguistic patterns we've seen, it's making an unusual request. So this is something that would have been caught by our impersonation protection, and depending on how you set the product up, could have been moved to junk or deleted outright. Next slide. Again, service impersonation. It's not uncommon to see Microsoft. I'm sure all of you have probably seen Microsoft impersonated. Is still the #1 most impersonated brand. But here's an example of Wells Fargo. And if you look at the from email address, it even has a wellsfargo.com. So it makes it look pretty legitimate. The right colors, the right logos, the right everything. But our product says, hold up, this is not the typical email address that Wells Fargo uses. And it has a suspicious URL that typically Wells Fargo does not use. So again, this gets flagged based on these key indicators and would have been moved to junk or deleted outright if the product had been live and running in real time. Next slide. This is the scary ones. This is the ones that one of my coworkers, Kelly, who's on the call, loves to see and talk about, because this is a scary one. This is where you have legitimate communication that's going on between you and a legitimate vendor, but something has happened to that vendor's account that they've been breached. And then a bad actor goes out and registers a domain that looks very similar. And if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that the right domain is the BRIDGETON, but the sender in this case is BRIDG@s.com. But they insert themselves in line with the email chain. They typically have the right email signature, the right colors, fonts, everything. And usually it's around invoices or money being paid. So this is a very scary one, and one where we have seen tens of thousands of dollars get sent out the door to the wrong person. Next slide. And one of the things, when you look this up, you'll notice that the domain was registered the day of the attack that was launched. So this impersonating domain, this lookalike domain, was registered by a bad actor specifically to run this attack. And so those are some good examples of what we see and where our products can come alongside Acture, alongside you as an organization, to better protect your employees, whoever it may be, from these attacks getting to your inbox, from these attacks being acted upon, from ransomware attacks being initiated, from invoices being paid to the wrong person, whatever it may be. We are continuing to pour money into the R&D on this side of our product line. But at the same time, there are other pieces to this puzzle as well. And with that, I will actually turn it over to Richard, who can talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff we're doing to help protect your environment.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. Excellent demo, by the way. The email stack never ceases to amaze me. So we're going to take a little look at Barracuda's Content Shield and Content Shield Plus product here in the next couple of slides. You could see originally Scott mentioned the DNS filtering component that's based in the email stack. We'll talk a little bit about that. Something interesting, the email has an actual remediation button. So if you were to find something in there, you can actually push a few clicks and it will actually create an entry in the DNS filtering component for you. So not only are you getting the link protection, but you're also getting the DNS updated for that automatic blocking. So again, Content Shield and Content Shield Plus, we have two flavors to offer today. The first one, Barracuda Content Shield, is DNS-based filtering. For the most part, you set a policy, point your DNS servers to it, and it filters anything based against that policy. You can create exceptions, a few other things in there, and I'll show you that in an actual demo as we move forward. And then we have Content Shield Plus. So the primary difference, Content Shield Plus does have an agent. They're both SaaS-based products and web-based management, so it's super simple to do. But Content Shield Plus gives you a lot more granular control. It adds in features such as user and group filtering, so it's really nice for creating filters for your marketing or your teachers and student groups, different connectivity pieces here. All right. The nice part about Content Shield Plus is it doesn't have a proxy. So we're not filtering all your traffic up through the cloud. Barracuda literally makes a decision on the device as to where it's going. So the agent travels with the user, whatever device it happens to be, and wherever they go, they're filtered. So you don't have to worry about when they go off site. All right, next slide, please. So, well, we covered the additions. I guess I should come forward to this one. Again, so with Content Shield Plus, you can actually filter using AD Group. You can connect using Azure AD, local LDAP. If you don't have any of that, we can offer manual filtering where you can create your own users and groups, but it works really well. All right, next slide. So again, granular policy enforcement here with BCS Plus. Now you can see a little bit in the slide there, it's grainy. I'll show you on the screen in a bit where you can create policies. So you start out pretty much with an everyone policy. And from the everyone policy, you define your most restricted policy. So let's just say for some reason you install it and a user doesn't match a group or anything like that. That'll be the most restricted policy they're going to get. And then you tier up and you create different groups and user policies to go above. So again, it's top-down order, super easy to use, and we'll show you that in just a moment. So next slide. So here we have the web filtering log. Again, this is really cool. So everything a user goes to, they click on, they touch, it's logged. It's saved in the system for up to 30 days. You can see allowed, denied, or blocked actions. With Content Shield Plus, you have the ability to do SSL decryption and safe search with the click of a button. Super cool features. So you can actually filter websites and videos and so on. These logs can be shipped out to a third-party SIEM solution. You can even download these logs if you wanted to into an Excel type document and save them for later. All right, next, please. So Content Shield Plus and Content Shield have some base level reporting. You can actually log into the system and have it generate a report, send it to an email on a schedule, whatever time frame you like. You can block based on categories, super categories. Again, super nice, just know it's there. It can send you a report whenever you feel like, or you can run these on demand. And since there's no appliance, there's no lag time in running the reporting. It's all SaaS based. Next, please. All right. Again, blanket policy enforcement via BCS. So super easy, couple of clicks, you block categories, malicious links, bad things like that. In here, including BCS and BCS Plus, the malicious link component ties back into Barracuda's Advanced Threat Protection Network. So whenever we see new signatures for bad websites and things like that, malicious URLs, this device or these click categories pretty much updated very quickly. So if we see something new in the email threat stack, we'll automatically add it into the malicious URL stack for you here, so you don't have to really worry about that. All right, next, please. Okay, again, comprehensive 365 email protection. So this is layered in. Content Shield is the base level of filtering. You can actually upgrade this to take advantage of Content Shield and Content Shield Plus in our email protection plan. So like Scott was talking about, so it's super nice to be based on that. It can also be purchased independently of the email stack. Okay. Next, please. Oh, here we go, demo. So if we could just change the screen share over, I will share my screen and we will go from there, and I'll show you actually product. I don't have as many slides. I'd love to say this is a very complex product, but one thing I like about the Content Shield and Content Shield Plus, it is very easy to use and manage. So.
All right, Richard, there you go. And
Cool.
let me just make sure that you can share it on your end. I think you can.
Oh, let's see here. Host has disabled participant screen sharing. Oh my goodness. There we go. Let's see, make sure this is the right screen, get the thing out of the way. So, can you guys see my Content Shield dashboard?
Looks so great. Thank you for sharing it, Richard.
It's a little bit better than the slide deck. So typically I like to live demo this anyway, just for clarity purposes. So this is the dashboard. Now, again, this is SaaS based, right? So this exists in the Barracuda Network Cloud. So if you don't have an account or you want to check this out, go over to barracuda.com, create an account, and you can actually start a trial for Content Shield and play with this product yourself for 15 days or whatever. Download the agent, set it up, built-in policies, super easy to do. Very quickly, dashboard is going to show you the type of traffic we're seeing, the applications, other apps, etc. What I find most interesting are these block categories. So these will trend up and down depending on your agents. Right now, mine are previously up versus the 7 days. So again, with larger organizations, this will trend differently. You can pull reports on the trends up and down from the dashboard, but really what I like to look at are just how easy it is to set up. So here we have DNS filtering. Now this is Barracuda Content Shield. So this is the base product that comes in the email package. And you can see here I have a location. Now this is a network, a building, physical, brick and mortar, what have you. So, and we've created a policy, and I'll just show you how easy it is to create one of these. So we'll call this test network. All right. And then we can do, if you don't have static IP, we have an agent you can plug into your network and we can update that and it will still filter the policy. But in this case, we're going to manually configure the external IP. Okay, so again, 99.197.197.68. Okay, so we're going to add this. Now, I can add multiple IPs here. Now, the reason for the IP is we don't just DNS filter for everybody. We like to make sure our service is secure, so we're going to use this as our external key. You can have multiple external IP addresses if you have different egress points, or if you want to tie multiple locations into one policy, you can put them here. And policy creation is very simple. In this mode, we even have some high, medium, and low presets. And you can see these categories here, including security, botnet, advertisements and banners, content delivery, infrastructure networks, malware, keyloggers, phishing sites. These are all the important stuff, right? So next, again, we have custom allowed or custom block domain. So if you already have that or want to add those, you can do this here. And then next, and then again, we're going to tell you right here where to point your DNS. Now, everything's going to come to the DNS servers. We're going to grab those contents and we're going to say, hey, yes, you can go here, or no, you can't go here. And the little green checkbox signifies that we actually are seeing the data. As you can see, this one, we just set it up. We're not sending anything yet, but it'll show up. So again, that is Barracuda Content Shield. Super easy, a couple of clicks and a few changes. This works great if you really don't need a whole lot of logging, or if you just want to filter a guest net where you don't want to install a client or an agent. So this can keep your agent or agentless devices safe from malicious links and so on. The second flavor we're going to look at is Barracuda Content Shield Plus. That lives in the advanced filtering level. So you can see here, there's a little bit more to it, right? So in this scenario, we have an everyone policy. So this is where everybody gets their default policy set. And there's some really cool stuff. So right here, everyone, safe search, it's a checkbox, full URL login, which means we're going to unwrap encrypted sessions and send the entire URL back. And these literally are actually a checkbox. So if you take a look here, safe search, on or off. very easy. I did not have to install a certificate. I didn't have to set anything fancy up. It just works with the agent, okay? Now you can see we've got a variety of things that are blocked here. We can edit these categories, add, remove, check boxes. We can even create individual URL matches or domain matches. But something I'm going to show you here. So you can see I've blocked all the social media and even my YouTube category here. Just don't want people there. Now, with the SSL decryption or the full URL logging, we have the ability to unwrap those URLs. So we can actually do things like allow an individual YouTube video or an individual subcomponent of a website. So if you don't want people just openly browsing, super easy. You just create a couple of clicks here, add a few lines, and away you go. And I'll show you this in just a moment on an actual box. Now, as far as exceptions go, right, you may not need to block marketing or YouTube for everything. So it's very easy. We just add a rule. And again, this can sync with LDAP, Azure AD, whatever you have. And I'm just going to grab my BCS group here. So this is my BCS users group. And I can block or allow. I can do categories, domains, or URLs here. So for example, we're going to pick a domain. And I'm just going to type in news.com. Now, when I do this, this is basically allowing news.com anything in front of or after. So all URLs, what have you, it's the entire domain. There's no wildcards or anything crazy to set up. I can also create inside this rule for, as you can see here again, the BCS Plus users, and allow for a URL. Now the difference here, news.com/subpage. So this allows only that URL and that subpage of the URL. So super powerful, very easy. These policies are created in the portal, then they're pushed down to the BCS agent that lives on the machine. And then these rules are then enforced. Again, user can leave the premises. It doesn't matter. The agent follows with them. They filter the traffic. And again, since we're not proxying, if a guy goes home and he's got 1 gig of internet at home, he's going to be able to browse at a gig of internet speed because we're not proxying that traffic. Again, so users, again, we can create rules here, not only in users, but we can just pick specific users. So if I pick Mr. John, I always like to pick on John here. And then I can block John from whatever checkboxes or allow I choose to here. So again, users group enforcement, blanket policy level down here at everyone is super cool. So let's take a look at it. So on the box, I got to type in the password box. I always forget that. There we go. So on the box, we have a typical Windows machine here, Mac, whatever we're using. So we can take a look. The agent just runs. Super simple, easy, was last updated. So it constantly is checking for new policy updates. If you were to reboot the machine, it checks for new policy updates. So if someone makes a change in the portal, typically it will filter down in 3 to 5 minutes. If you need it now, you can just log out and log back in. But the agent itself usually is, the user doesn't even know it's there. So again, web browsing is easy. We're gonna come in here and we just go wherever we want typically. Obviously, Dell's not gonna trip anything here. But we're gonna go over here and let's just say, again, we talked about YouTube. So YouTube is blocked. So now again, you can see the block page. This is fully customizable in BCS Plus. You can change the logos, the text, the type, whatever you like. You can put email addresses and phone numbers for support. So it makes it super nice. If somebody hits one of these pages and says, hey, this is broken and I don't know why. And again, this is even inserted on an encrypted page such as YouTube. So you're always going to get the block screen with that with the agent installed. Now, since I am not capable of remembering the entire URL, I like keeping a little text document here. And the reason I show this off is because let's say you do want to block YouTube, because it's a time waster 90% of the time. But you need a place to host a training video or something related to your work schedule or internal office setup. Well, you create the video, create the link, and then you send that out. And so you can see here, we have a video that I've allowed in here. We have other videos down the side. Now, again, this is a frame player, so I can't control that, but we can actually block videos of other types. So here again, I have control over YouTube and the sub-contents, again, using that URL we were talking about. And it works. It's easy, it works. I love it. It's super simple. All right. So again, any advanced filtering here, all these policies are set to allow or deny. All this information we talked about is logged here in web filtering logs. This may take just a moment to load, but we're going to filter this down for the last hour just to kind of quickly show you this. There we go. And I clicked too soon. That's what happens. So it's got a lot of records to pull together, you can imagine. But again, this is not an appliance. It's all cloud-based. And here you can see your users, blocked or allowed actions. You can actually come in here and you can drill down and filter specifically on Bill. You can also add more actions in here, such as a blocked category. So if you're having troubleshooting, you can actually filter this down and see what was blocked. And this will take just a moment to load here. And we can actually expand this out. And so now you can see, again, the action blocked. I can click here to take me back and show why it was blocked. The agent, the IP address, the browser type, YouTube, and this is the URL. Remember, we talked about that SSL decryption. So this tells you exactly where they were trying to go and that it was blocked.
Richard, we have a question from Rob.
Yes.
He's asking, how many URLs can we block? Can we block them per user? And does this work for remote staff as well? So kind of a three-part question.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. So as you can see, I've got a user here, John. I blocked it by category. If I were to change this, I can actually create a rule and I can block, let's see here, by domain. I can put a list of domains in here. I can put a list of URLs in here, so that can be done by user or group. And again, as long as John has the agent on his device, this policy is going to travel wherever he goes. So it doesn't matter. It'll check in, update new things. And if you need to make a modification, again, you can modify that, or you can delete this rule. And the next time his agent checks in, it'll pull the new policy.
And then he also asked a follow-up question, such a great question. He said, is there a way that IT admins or IT network administrators can get notifications if they keep trying to hit a certain URL?
That's actually a great question. We were going to get to that, but you beat me to it.
Yeah,
so
step ahead.
We have an alerting tab right here. So alerts, we have things like, you can see I have an alert email for command and control communications, but I can add alerts here. I can set it for any block category, any subcategory. Let's just say somebody's trying to find a hot date, right? So you can set this up 5 times in 24 hours, 10 times. Again, you might want to set this up a little higher, because obviously if you hit a web request, Chrome is going to hit the thing 5 or 6 times right off the bat. I would suggest playing with whatever seems efficient. And then you can put a list of email addresses in here that it can run and tell on you for. So it's actually really cool for that. So again, alerting can be set up for categories, super categories, etc. Command and control communications. So it's always nice to see that one. And then we have some base level reporting here. So with Content Shield Plus and Content Shield. So Content Shield gives you more of a location report. So you can pull a report of what was blocked and allowed here. And Content Shield Plus is going to give you things like super categories, categories, and user and per user report. So we can actually come in here and run this report for users. And I'm going to let that percolate for just a moment. And then if I want to know more specifically per user, I can come in here and pick on specifically Bill. Now, the content's a little different, because obviously here you're going to get both people, or I only have 2 in my network here, but if you had a list, you'd see the top blocked and top allowed, top categories, etc., where they've been trying to go or block from. And if we take a look at the per user report, you get more specifics with this one individual user, block domains, etc., where they're trying to go. So it's a little more granular here. And all these reports can be built anytime for the last 24 hours through 30 days. And then they can even be scheduled with the click of a button. So you can set this up to send whatever security team you want to say, hey, I need an overview of the security structure, once a week, once a month, once an hour, if you really want to do that. And then again, you just put the email recipients in here, and we send them these reports as needed.
Very cool. Love that.
All right, really quickly here, we'll just finish up with the block page. We mentioned customizing, super easy here. And then we have some exemptions around Microsoft traffic. So obviously sometimes URLs enter into and out of, but we're able to identify Office network traffic because of our partnership with Microsoft. So we can automatically exempt that. And then if users have VPN servers, you can actually put them in here in this list, so we don't inadvertently filter a VPN URL that may float into a particular category. So overall, the system is extremely easy to use for DNS filtering and advanced filtering with policies for users and groups. And with that, if there are any other questions, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Appreciate it very much. And Rob, that was a great question about, just a great multi-part question. So I appreciate it very much.
Was a great question. Thank you much.
Yeah, let me get back to sharing the right screen here. And if you guys could confirm that we're looking at the full screen or the split screen.
That is the split screen.
All right, we'll go ahead and change that.
There you go.
All right, good deal. So, such a great question and such a great demo. Thanks, Richard, for that. And thanks, Scott, for a lot of the content. If there's no other questions, we'll give everybody maybe about 10 or 15, 20 seconds to go ahead and type another question in. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and adjourn here shortly. Maybe just a question for you, Richard, or Scott, or Kelly, who's also on here. What's the best way for any one of our school district audiences to go ahead and get in touch with anybody from this webinar on your end, on Barracuda's end, after today's webinar?
Love that question. So this is Kelly Tolbert, channel manager for Barracuda. There's, really two options. I know you're going to list Joe's contact information at the end of this. So if anybody wants to reach out to Joe, they can always facilitate through that. If you want to reach out to Barracuda directly, you can go right on our website. We've got a few trials that you can kick off. I know we kind of touched on the email threat scan. And again, that runs within your environment and it will not interrupt any email flow. So if you want to reach out to us that way, we can always, then loop in the Acture team as well. So just, let us know how we can help you. And we'd love to get a conversation started.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly, for that. And thanks for the rest of the Barracuda team for today's awesome webinar. Here's Joe's information. He's our Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Acture Solutions. So if you have any questions, reach out to him. Again, his contact information will be sent in the email marketing follow-ups after this webinar. Again, I'm Dave Scott. I work on the marketing team here at Acture, and this webinar is being recorded. It will show up on our YouTube page, our website, and a LinkedIn here in a matter of a few days. So Kelly, huge thanks to you and for the facilitation, and for Liz on the marketing team inside of Barracuda. And thanks for Scott and Richard for such great content today. We appreciate it very much.